Hello, and welcome back to the ServSafe Food Protection Manager Certification. My name is Mr. Dan Delcher, and I am a Certified ServSafe Instructor with the Essex County Schools of Technology. This is Chapter 5, The Flow of Food, an Introduction. The objectives of Chapter 5 include identify the following: ways of preventing cross-contamination, ways of preventing time-temperature abuse, different types of temperature measuring devices and their uses, how to calibrate thermometers, and general guidelines for thermometer use. The flow of food. The flow of food is the path that food takes throughout the operation. The flow of food starts off with purchasing, moves into receiving, followed by storing, preparation, cooking, holding, cooling, reheating, and table service. We will discuss each of these sections of the flow of food through the next few chapters. But it is important that as we explore the flow of food, there are going to be two main concepts that will appear in most of the chapters. And that includes, which are ways to keep food safe, which include preventing cross-contamination and prevent time-temperature abuse. Cross-contamination involves using separate equipment. We need to use separate equipment for raw and ready-to-eat food. And it's important that when we are finished using an item, a piece of equipment, we clean and sanitize it. Clean and sanitize all work surfaces, equipment, and utensils before and after each task. For an example, when you should use one type of cutting board for cutting chicken, while using an entirely separate cutting board to cut lettuce. Or when you're finished with a pan that held raw chicken, take it to the 3-compartment sink and clean and sanitize it thoroughly before you go and put, let's say, chicken salad, ready to eat chicken salad, into it. It's important that we prep raw and ready to eat food at different times. If using the same prep table, prep raw meat, fish, and poultry at a different time than ready to eat food. When possible, prep ready to eat food before raw food. Prep raw and ready to eat food at different Prep raw and ready to eat food at different times. Separate raw meat, poultry, and seafood from unwashed and ready to eat fruits and vegetables. Buy prepared food. Buy food items that don't require much prepping and handling, such as this bag of shredded iceberg lettuce. Our other item is time and temperature control. Time and temperature control requires that food must be held in the range of 41 and below 41 and above 135. Has been when it's held within those times, 41 to 135, it has been time temperature abused. Food is being temperature abused whenever it is handled in the following ways: cooked to the wrong internal temperature, held at the wrong temperature, or cooked or reheated incorrectly. Remember also from Chapter 2, we discussed that pathogens grow rapidly within the temperature range of 70 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So how should we avoid time temperature abuse? We should be constantly monitoring time and temperature. Make sure the correct kinds of thermometers are available to you. Regularly record temperatures and the times they are taken. Sometimes this is done digitally or on a clipboard. Minimize the time that food spends in the temperature danger zone. And take corrective actions if time temperature standards are not met. So let's take a look at some different ways of monitoring time temperature. And we're going to start off with several different types of thermometers. Your first type of thermometer, which you've commonly probably seen your chef and culinary arts instructors use, is the bimetallic stem thermometer. This measures the temperature through a metal stem. It has a sensing area from the tip to the dimple, which is the entire sensing area must be inserted into the food, and has a calibration nut to keep the thermometer accurate. As you can see, the top includes the indicator head, which will tell you what the temperature is. Just underneath the indicator head is that calibration nut. The entire rod of the bimetallic stem thermometer is called the stem. You should find a small dimple on the stem of the bimetallic thermometer. Again, with most bimetallic thermometers, you do not need to force the entire stem into the food. You just need to get the tip all the way to the dimple into the food item. That is the overall sensing area from the tip to the dimple. Our next type of thermometer are thermocouples and thermosisters. They measure temperature through a metal probe, display temperatures digitally, and have a sensing area on the tip of their probe. These come with interchangeable probes, including immersion probes, surface probes, penetration probes, and air probes. Again, the bimetallic thermometer is usually some sort of has some sort of hand pointer, while thermocouples and thermosisters usually give you a digital readout. Just to give you some information about some of the different probes, an immersion probe is a probe that can be dropped into let's say a pot of soup and can just sit there in the pot of soup. A surface probe will only detect the actual temperature of the surface of the item. Penetration probe kind of works like the bimetallic stem thermometer. It has a dimple on the metal probe and will detect and needs to be penetrated into the food item. And then there's an air probe, and that basically collects the temperature of the air. Air probes for thermocouples and thermosisters are commonly used inside refrigerators and freezers. If you ever look at the side of a commercial walk-in or commercial reach-in freezer or refrigerator, you'll see some sort of digital or dial readout, which is using an air probe. Infrared laser thermometers. They're used to measure the surface temperature of food and equipment. Hold as close to the food or equipment as possible. Remove anything between the thermometer and the food. food package, or equipment, and follow manufacturer's guidelines. Infrared laser thermometers are typically used in the instances of receiving because they can get you a quick readout as your delivery driver brings in food items. You can quickly use this to kind of get a read on the temperature. Again, most likely when receiving, the warmest part is going to be of the packaging or even of the food item is going to be the surface temperature. That's why this is commonly used for receiving purposes. There's also maximum registering thermometers. These are indicators that the highest temperature reached during use. They're used when temperature reading cannot be continuously observed. And time temperature indicators. They monitor both time and temperature, and they're usually attached to packages by the supplier. A color change appears A color change appears on the device when time temperature abuse has occurred. Again, these are usually some sort of metal strip or indicator that's attached right onto the box. So how do we calibrate thermometers? Calibration is done by adjusting a thermometer to get a correct reading. There are two methods to calibrate thermometers: the ice point method and the boiling point method. This is because both the ice point method and the boiling point method are both two known temperatures that we can easily calibrate to. So the boiling point method is done by bringing tap water to a boil in a deep pan. You then put the thermometer stem or probe into the water and adjust the thermometer so it reads 212 degrees Fahrenheit, or the boiling point for your elevation. For most areas, it is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The ice point method is done by filling a large container with ice and add tap water, submerging the sensing area, and wait 30 seconds. Adjust the thermometer so it reads 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, using a cup of ice water should indicate a freezing environment. So what are some general thermometer guidelines? When using thermometers, wash, rinse, sanitize, and air dry thermometers before and after using them. Calibrate them at these times: after they have been bumped or dropped, after they have been exposed to extreme temperature changes, before deliveries arrive, and before each shift. It's important that we make sure they are accurate. If you use to check food, thermometers must be accurate to plus or minus 2 degrees Fahrenheit or plus or minus 1 degree Celsius. If used to check air temperature, thermometers must be accurate to plus or minus 3 degrees Fahrenheit or plus or minus 1.5 degrees Celsius. Only use glass thermometers if they are enclosed in a shatterproof casing. Insert the thermometer stem or probe into thickest part of the food. Take more than one reading in different spots. And wait for the thermometer reading to steady, or basically hold a position. This concludes Chapter 5. You are now asked to complete the Chapter 5 review on Google Classroom, and you Again, we will refer to a lot of this information on both cross-contamination, thermometers, and time temperature abuse throughout the next few chapters of this ServSafe instruction. Thank you.